Exclusive. He's the oldest celebrity in the world. Like super old. Old enough to remember when dancing was a sin and beer was served in a bucket. But is he ready to lead?
Hey America, I'm Paris Hilton and I'm a celebrity too. Only I'm not from the olden days and I'm not promising change like that other guy. I'm just hot. But then that wrinkly white-haired guy used me in his campaign ad, which I guess means I'm running for president. So thanks for the endorsement, white-haired dude. And I want America to know that I'm like totally ready to lead. And now I want to present my energy policy for America. Just as soon as I finish reading this article on where I can fly to get the best ham. Oh, Maui. Loves it. Okay, so here's my energy policy. Barack wants to focus on new technologies to cut foreign oil dependency, and McCain wants offshore drilling. Well, why don't we do a hybrid of both candidates' ideas? We can do limited offshore drilling with strict environmental oversight, while creating tax incentives to get Detroit making hybrid and electric cars. That way, the offshore drilling carries us until the new technologies kick in, which will then create new jobs and energy independence. Energy crisis solved. I'll see you at the debates, bitches. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go pick out a vice president. I'm thinking Rihanna. I'll see you at the White House. Oh, and I might paint it pink. I hope that's cool with you guys. Bye. I'm Paris Hilton and I approve this message because I think it's totally hot.
The Dalai Lama is revered in much of the world as a promoter of peace, harmony and tolerance, but on his current visit to Australia, some fellow Buddhists have labelled him a spiritual dictator and a hypocrite who tells lies and suppresses religious freedom. So what's behind this rift? With me is Buddhist nun Keslam Lachog from the Western Shugden Society. Thanks so much for being with us. This week we've seen Australians pay thousands of dollars to sit and learn from the Dalai Lama, and the federal government sort of scrambled to find an appropriate person to meet him. A spiritual dictator? That doesn't sort of sound right.
No, it doesn't sound right. That's one of the things about the Dalai Lama, is that he has this extraordinary reputation that sort of puts a spell over the people of this world, where they don't question his actions and they find it difficult to believe that he could make any mistakes or be faulty in any way. He speaks beautiful words, but no one checks whether or not his actions actually match up to the words that he speaks. If you look into what is happening in his community that he is the leader of, then you will see very clearly that he acts like a dictator.
Well, I mean, is what we're really talking about here a doctrinal split over a prayer, essentially the veneration of an obscure Tibetan deity? There's a lot of heat in this for something that sounds that obscure.
Yeah. I think firstly to understand it's not obscure deity. Two-thirds prior to the invasion of Tibet, two-thirds of Tibetans actually engaged in this practice. The Dalai Lama himself engaged in this practice until he was in his 40s. It was given to him by his teacher.
But he now says he believes that this worship is wrong. I mean, surely that's what spiritual leaders do. It's what the Pope does. They say, this is the direction we should take for Tibetan Buddhism. Why doesn't he have a right to say that?
Well, he has a right to do whatever he wants. He has it from that point of view. Everybody has religious freedom. He has the right to practice what he wants. But I don't believe that he has the right to stop other people from engaging in a religious practice.
And can he stop other people from doing that? Is he really trying to?
I think that the difference between the Dalai Lama and other religious leaders is that he's not just a religious leader, he's also a political leader. So he has political power over the Tibetan exile community.
And how is he using that political power in this fight?
He's using that power to enforce bans. For example, the Tibetan in exile government's constitution, which is meant to be a democratic constitution, has been altered to say that anybody who engages in this practice is not allowed to work for the government. It's an institutionalized ban.
But you're talking about actual persecution. Take me through the details of what you're saying there. What happens to Tibetan folks in exile in India who say this prayer.
Yeah. Anybody who says this prayer is being ostracised from their community. They're being identified in a very formal way. So what the Dalai Lama has instituted is a series of referendums, and they're supposed referendums. If you check the actual process, they're not a referendum as we would call them. For example, in the monasteries, he gets people to recently got people to engage in what's called a vote stick publicly in front of thousands of people. The monks had to choose a yellow stick or a red stick.
And what happens if they chose the wrong colour?
If they chose the wrong colour, they would be expelled from their monastery. They would also then be identified within the community as being against the Dalai Lama. As a result, they would be humiliated and ostracised. Not just them, but their families would also experience this. Their families would be told, would be visited by representatives of the Dalai Lama saying, you must tell your family member to stop doing this practice, or else you must not ever allow them to come home again.
Is this going to have an impact on Western practitioners?
Absolutely. The Dalai Lama has very powerful speech in this world. He has this enormous reputation. He's seen or perceived to be the Buddhist leader, which in fact he isn't at all and never has been.
So you don't recognise him as that?
He isn't. The Dalai Lama has never had that position. Like all 13 previous Dalai Lamas have never had that position. The Dalai Lama is not the leader of Buddhism in this world. You go to Sri Lanka, you go to Burma, you go to these places and ask them who is your leader. It's not the Dalai Lama.
I'm interested in the personal sorts of reflections that this has about the Dalai Lama. You've presented me with quotes in which he says, look, I will unleash a cultural revolution against those who will not obey what I'm saying. This is an extraordinary thing to say, and it doesn't tally, as I say, with our perceptions of the man.
Yeah.
I mean, what are your perceptions of the man?
Well, I think that he's a political leader who is masquerading as a spiritual leader, and that is something that we all understand in the West is not an appropriate thing to mix. We all know, don't mix religion with politics, because then it all gets very messy. And he has confused those two roles and using his political power to enforce his own religious views on others.
And what are the consequences of a potential, I mean, why should we care about a potential split in Tibetan Buddhism?
I think that ordinary people should care about it from the point of view of the persecution that people are experiencing. This is a very real issue for the people in the exile community. They're being ostracised from their families. They're being denied travel visas. They can't leave unless they have this identity card that says that they are in line with the Dalai Lama's view. They're being denied basic human rights such as food and water, being expelled from monasteries. The exile community is a very close-knit community. If you get identified as being against the Dalai Lama, then your life becomes uncomfortable, to say the least, and fearful, to say the most.
It's an extraordinary story given our perceptions of the Dalai Lama. Thank you for coming in and telling us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Appreciate it.